We'll now take a look at some additional expressions that we can include in our while loops. In all of our previous examples with while loops, the condition was usually pretty simple, but this isn't always going to be true. In fact, the condition of a while loop can become quite complex. So let's take a look at an example to see this. So let's say we modify our number guessing program. So let's say we give the user a limited number of attempts. The way we can handle this is we can create a new variable, which we'll call num of guesses, and we'll initialize it to be 0 to be the number of times that a person would guess. And what we would do is just say, after you make a guess, we'll increment this by 1, and we'll say, as long as we're not done, and as long as we haven't reached the limit of our guesses, then we can continue our while loop. So for this to work, we're going to have to make some changes to our while loop to incorporate this additional condition. Here is our exact same code from before, except now we've included checking the number of guesses in the condition of our while loop. So we have this giant condition up here. And so we're checking two different things. We're still checking to make sure that done is false. So we're checking not done. So that part hasn't changed at all from the previous example. But now we've included the check that the number of guesses is less than 5. So what happens here is we're going to keep asking the user to enter a guess until one or two things happens. Either the user is going to guess correctly, which if this happens, then guess is going to be equal to num. And then we're going to execute this line, which means not done is going to become false. So that means our condition of our loop is going to become false, and we get out of it. The other possibility is that the user guesses incorrectly 5 times. That's because in this line here, I'll do it this way. Here we go. This line right here is going to increment by 1 with each incorrect guess. So whenever it becomes 5, num of guesses less than 5 becomes false, which then means the entire loop becomes false and we just get out of the while loop. In this example though, after we get out of the while loop, we need to let the user know that they actually lost. I mean, we can also include something if they won, but we technically already did that inside of the loop when we said that they got it correct. So the way we can handle that is we can include an if statement outside of the loop that just says that if we're still not done, then we've lost. So we can just say if not done, because if this part is still true, and that means the only way we got out of our while loop was because the number of guesses was not less than 5. So in this case, it has to be equal to 5. So if not done is still true, we can print something like, you lose, good day, sir. Now here's an interesting question. What if we decide to update our loop control variable inside the condition? Are we allowed to do that? Well, yeah. Let's take a look at an example, maybe something like this. So what we have here is we have our count variable, and it's initially 0, but inside the while loop, we include count plus plus and check to see if that's less than 5. So what's going on here? Well, the plus plus on the right means we're going to do our incrementing after we do our check. So this means that the first time we run this line, we're going to check if 0 is less than 5. After that, count's going to become 1. So what this means is we're going to repeat this 5 more times, but count is going to be 6 at the end, because in that last statement where we're saying if 5 is less than 5, that's going to be false, but we still increment count by 1 when we get out of the loop. So count is actually going to be 6, even though the number of iterations is going to be 5. Now let's take a look at a different example. So what about this approach here? It's the same code, except now the plus plus is done before the count. So because we're doing the incrementing on the left, that means we're incrementing the value of count before we execute the line. That means the very first line, or the first time we're running through this while loop, we're actually checking if 1 is less than 5 because we've already incremented count before doing our comparison. This means our loop is going to run only 4 times, but count is still going to be 5 at the end.